Good afternoon. Sorry, it is 5:30, and we will call the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission, September the 19th, 2023, to order. Roll call, let the record reflect that all members are present. At this time, we will approve the agenda for today. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Minutes from the previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting? Any questions? No. Any deletions, additions? Entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve.
Motion to approve,
Second.
and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Report from Mr. Code Officer report.
Well, nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Under old business. Under old business, we have a table of a rezone request from R1A to PRD at 635 James Huff Road, Madison Ridge. The open hearing for this rezone was held on August the 15th, 2023. And therefore, the discussions on both sides of this request, the suggestion was made to table the request. Motion to table was made to verify the spring and cemetery. Mr. Callender, would you give us the results of those reports?
So, yeah, based on the Planning Commission's decision to table this item, there were two pieces of evidence that were provided. The first was to address the issue about the wetlands. There was a report prepared back when this property was originally rezoned in 2006 and annexed into the city for development. The developer at that time had begun the steps to develop the property, and part of that is having a ecological survey of the property itself. And in this case, there was one done, and I think the issue specifically, that one of the reasons this was tabled was about the farm pond. I'm going to try to do my best to kind of point to it here, but it was up here in the southwestern corner of the site. You can see it's not visible on this aerial photograph here. But the results of that report from 2006, and it appears to remain unchanged, is that is just a farm pond that was for the purpose of gathering stormwater for cattle. And it was isolated, and it was not identified as being spring-fed. So that was concern number one by the Planning Commission, was that a spring-fed pond? And even if that were an issue with zoning, I mean, it shouldn't be an issue with zoning necessarily unless you would like to condition that be addressed. But it's standard that if the project is rezoned and moves forward for development, they are going to be required to prepare a new report. And if it is spring-fed, they'll be required to buffer it based on city standards. So ultimately, there is a solution to this issue if it is identified as a spring-fed. But according to the report and based on the evidence that I've seen, it is not. And the second part was regarding a cemetery, and one of the citizens that was here at the meeting that evening did provide staff with the information that they had regarding something from the Walton Genealogical Society, and it was regarding the Glasson Family Cemetery. Now, the property that you can see, this green border here, this is your subject property being considered for a rezone, and the exact coordinates that were listed, and you can see they actually provide the coordinates here of that cemetery. That's north of the site, north of Jacks Creek, across from the property. Is not located on the subject property. In fact, that cemetery is owned by property of the family of the same name. The Kellys own that property, and I know it says Glasson Family Cemetery, but apparently the Kellys still own this property. They're the ones identified as having some relatives that live there, but not on the subject property. So to answer the two issues that the Planning Commission had last month was location of cemeteries on the subject property and the location of potential wetlands at the farm pond, and the answer is no on both.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sorry, and just to wrap up, though, our recommendation remains the same. The original two conditions are proposed to the Planning Commission for their recommendation.
Right. Okay, the discussion for both pro and con for this discussion was made during the August the 15th meeting. Therefore, there will be no further open discussions. I will ask this board if there are any questions concerning the two conditions for the pond and also for the cemetery.
None for me.
None for me.
Not the questions, but I do have a question about the report. The report we received is dated 2006. Has anything been done since then?
Now, that was the only report that was ever created on it. And just considering the situation with that, if you looked at the detail of the other springs that were identified that are not being proposed to be developed, there's a lot more detail that identifies certain types of wetland features that are spring-fed, and that pond was pretty benign in its description. But like I said, when they move forward in the site development process at the administrative level, they're going to be required to submit another environmental report of the property, and they're going to be required to identify any potential springs on the site. At that point, if there are any, the city requirements to buffer from those will be a standard minimum. So it would impact the plan you see before you. They would lose some lots, they're going to have to move a street, some other things would happen, or they could apply for a core permit to mitigate that wetland.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So that being said, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to either approve or deny.
I will motion to approve with the two original conditions included.
Motion to approve with two original conditions.
I'll second.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No?
The ayes have it, that the request is approved. Under new business, the first item is a request for a COA, a sign modification at 195 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That would be Zaxby's. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is I'm sorry, we had that wrong on your agenda. It's a site modification. And so this is your existing Zaxby's out here on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And they're asking to make some minor modifications to the site, nothing too dramatic, but simply seen here on the plan, there's the existing site. They have their parking around the building, their drive-through lane on the north side. They're proposing to remove the parking on the south side of the building and then add dual order-taking drive-through lanes with some canopy features and some other modern-looking features to accommodate order taking. It's pretty straightforward, and none of your COA standards or excuse me, CDO standards are affected by this request, and the recommendation is approval as submitted without conditions. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I would ask if there was anybody present to speak for this request.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Carter with Carter Engineering Consultants. We are working with Zaxby's, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you may have, but I think Mr. Callender said it very well. All we want to do here is just improve the drive-through so it doesn't keep stacking on out in the road. So that's really what this is about. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I would ask if there was anybody present to speak in opposition to this request. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion is passed. Item number 2 is a request for a preliminary plat approval at Hambrick Station, 56 lots at 1301 Alcovey Street. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a approval of a request to get approval for a preliminary plat. This is a product that did have a previous preliminary plat approval, but it's expiring. So they're here before you to get this renewed. This is a 21.5 acre property on the corner of Vine Street, Alcovey Street, and Criswell Road. And it's the same exact preliminary plat that was approved before. They're asking simply for the renewal. It proposed 56 single-family detached lots. And the recommendation is approval as submitted without corrections.
Thank you. Is there someone present to speak in favor of this request? No one? Okay.
Brian Elrod with Hambrick Station LLC. So this is a project that was approved, presented, rezoned, annexed into the city back in 2006, I think, 2006, 2007. And so we are back here to renew before it expires a preliminary plat that we have that was inactive, so we can get going.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion, request is approved. Item number 3, a request for a conditional use permit for a child care house at 839 Overlook Trail. Is there, Mr. Code Officer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is for a child care home. As you've read in your staff report, we provide the definition of what a child care home is in the city of Monroe. It's care up to 6 children for a period of less than 24 hours. And so this, you can see the photograph of the home here. This is 839 Overlook Trail where the conditional use is requested. And they are asking for this approval to provide the care for children up to 6 at a time. So they are proposing modified hours compared to what we would normally permit. It's just smaller and shorter time frame. They're proposing hours of operation to be from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they're saying that there will be no more than 2 to 3 cars there at any given time. And that it would actually be conducted within the first floor of the residence itself. These are permitted in the R1 district as conditional uses as long as they maintain the limit of 6 children and stay within the realms of the definitions of our zoning ordinance. So the recommendation as was submitted is approval with 2 conditions: that they do not take care of more than 6 children at any given time, and that if there's a sale of the property, then this CUP would become null and void.
Thank you. Is there someone present to speak for this request?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Is there a time limit for how long I should speak?
No. Give us your name first of all.
Yes, sorry. My name is Mercedes, Mrs. Mercedes Pridgeon, and it's an honor to be here to submit a request to operate a family child care home in my residential home. Would you like me to present what I have in my portfolio, or do you prefer question and answer?
Go ahead and present, if it's not too awful long.
I'll try to keep it really short. I have previous experience as a previous resident in Florida, running my family child care home for over 5 years. I'm a former certified teacher, still certified, and my husband and I are both educators. We see a need in the city of Monroe, and we want to contribute to the growth and expansion of the community to provide quality child care to growing families. And so I have a passion for doing this. It is my hope that you all would be willing to approve my operation of the family child care home. I have some pictures, if you're interested, of which shows my experience working with children. You don't have to look at that. I'm not sure if you're interested in knowing why I want to start a family child care home, but I would like to start a family child care home. Like I said, my passion is just in helping the community, and I saw a need in the community. And there's benefits to being in a multi-age group environment. It's just a lot of one-on-one attention. It's family-oriented. It's conducive for social emotional connection and providing nurturing guidance for preparing children, not only for school, but for lifelong learning. So that just gives a summary of what my goal is with this potential business.
Are there any questions?
I'm just curious to know, are these children in a distress situation or families and things like that?
Well, I try my best to have children that are in good family homes. If I'm licensed, in order to get licensed, I have to first be approved through zoning, and I'm working directly with DECAL. So if they are distressed, I have to report that to DECAL and DFACS, and that has to be addressed right away.
Are there any other than our approval just to do this, licenses from like the state of Georgia or anywhere else that you would have to have before you can start?
Well, I registered as an LLC with the state of Georgia. That was my personal choice. You don't have to do that, but it's really just with right from the start in DECAL. They take care of the licensing process, and they have their specific standards that's required before you even get licensed. There's fire marshal needs to come out. There's certain guidelines for operating the business that you have to maintain safety for operation of the business, and there's unannounced inspections by inspectors to make sure that you're following those standards to maintain your license. The license is maintained annually with professional development, and you have to continue professional development to show that you're still providing quality service to clients. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Who is the license issued from?
Right from the start.
From the state of Georgia?
It's from the state of Georgia, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And can you explain quickly what the justification is for the extended hours? I mean, is that based on specific known needs of your clients now?
It doesn't have to be extended. To be honest with you, from taking care of the 2 children that I'm legally allowed to take care of, 5 to 7 is not going to work for me. I believe that needs to be adjusted to some general hours. Personally, I'm more comfortable with 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and maybe until maybe 6 p.m. for after-school students, but I don't foresee myself doing 5 a.m. business hours.
More curious than anything. Thank you.
I'm glad you asked.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would ask if there was anyone present to speak in opposition to this request. Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
A motion to approve as requested.
There were conditions.
Yeah,
Were there
with-
conditions?
there-
You mean with the 2 conditions?
The 2
Yes.
conditions.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, have a motion to approve with the 2 conditions.
I'll second that.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. The motion is approved. Thank you. Number 4, item number 4, development regulations update number 7.
Yes, yes,
What?
sir.
You want to excuse everybody before? this?
If everyone wants to.
Unless you want to stay,
The room.
this has nothing to do with anything else around town. It's just,
Want to hear about these development regulations?
thank you for coming.
I'll go ahead and jump into it, though,
Yes.
just for save time. So, this is the proposed amendments to development regulations, your 7th update. We did propose a 7th update, you saw 2 months ago. We withdrew that from council. So this will be the official 7th update. And we've gone backwards to one that we had proposed 2 months ago on a proposal to amend this section regarding development permits. So you can see that the existing code section there, if you read that, that's struck out in red, it's pretty vague and has some pretty unusual language in it that doesn't help staff identify specifically when land disturbance permits expire. So we are going to clarify that language and actually enhance the time frame. So currently now 12 months is when it's allowed. We're going to extend that for another 12. We're going to give them 24 months to have a valid LDP. And then if there is a need for a one-time extension, we will grant a 6-month extension. So someone that gets an LDP basically has 30 months to get a final plat approved by city council. And in the same section here below, this was the same language we had proposed to this planning commission here 2 months ago about development permits not commencing within 6 months, they shall automatically expire. And then if there is a start on the development, and then there is a lapse of that development activity for a period of 90 days, we will expire the LDP. That's an increase from 30 to 90. And that's the proposal for the land disturbance permit language. We've just expanded the time that we had originally proposed. If you remember, it was 18 months with no extension. This is 24 now with one extension of 6 months. The other proposed amendments in this section are enhancing the subdivision review procedures. And I say by enhancement, we're going to clarify some things here in the preliminary plat section. Going to clarify the number of copies that need to be submitted, including the individuals that can prepare preliminary plats. You can see there we got the number 2. We're going to change that from 6 to 2 copies. It's all we need for review. And then we're going to allow surveyors to also be ones that can submit a preliminary plat. They should be the main ones, to be honest with you. And then we are proposing that the language, and you see there in section C, a lot has been struck and there's a lot being added. That is a duplicate of your preliminary plat section that we amended there back in January that clarifies the procedure for our preliminary plat and how applications are submitted and processed. And then moving on, we are clarifying some language for the planning commission to include the word zoning ordinance. Right now, that should be a part of the review for a preliminary plat. It's not written in there. And then we are going to designate in this section D that you see there, we're going to change the city council as the approval authority to this planning commission. So the planning commission would be the approval authority for all preliminary plats moving forward based on these amendments. It doesn't strike any powers away from city council or anything like that. It just grants this body the ability to approve the preliminary plat instead of a 2-month process for preliminary plats, because it's a technical review. It's not an official approval other than an ability to start the LDP process. So we've struck the language that describes city council being the authority that has to approve the plat. And we actually moved some of that language up there, and you see section D that designates the planning commission the authority that approves the preliminary plat. And then moving on, this is specifically related to that last amendment, is adding the language to the approval stamp for the planning commission. This is the language that's for city council's approval. And then we're going to propose to add that from city councils, and you'll see we'll strike their approval stamp here. So there'll only be 3 approval stamps on a preliminary plat instead of 4. So that's all the changes that we have for the development regs. That's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to add one little tidbit. Brad did a great job explaining it. So the extension of the time period from 12 to 24 months, plus the additional 6-month administrative extension. So that's not an automatic administrative extension. That's for special circumstances like suddenly the city's unable to provide water meters, or there's a back order of gas meters, electric transformers, things like that, real outside-the-box circumstances. I just wanted to make sure that's noted.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Sure, there won't be any more changes after this.
I don't want to bring another the third version of a 7th update to you, I promise.
All right.
Oh, you mean like amendments in the future? No, they're not on the horizon, not for some time.
I see no one out here to object to this. So I guess we need to take a vote on this.
Yeah, you'll make your vote to recommend, make a recommendation.
And I will entertain a motion to approve or deny.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. And now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.